Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay there. I'd like to call the May meeting of the Board of Early Education and Care to order. It is amazing this month to be out in the field here in Westboro. To start, I would like to invite our host, Tammy Mello, CEO from Key Programs, to offer some remarks. Tammy, welcome.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
I'm going to make sure my back is not too everybody.
Yeah, just use the microphone there so the
Whoa.
all
All
the
right.
folks at home can hear you.
All right, all the folks at home, here I
Yes,
come.
yeah.
So welcome everyone to our beautiful office in Westboro. My name is Tammy Mello. I'm the president and CEO here at Key. I want to start by thanking, I know we have Kathleen Fitzgerald and Doug Curtis from Caruth Capital. They run this entire park. They really helped make this a beautiful space for us. We just moved here about 2 years ago.
Awesome.
And we're really thrilled to offer the space for you all. Many of you, I think people in this room have said, I worked for Key years ago, but we're really excited to have you here. We have programs throughout Massachusetts, also in Rhode Island, a little bit in New Hampshire. We have 16 group homes. Hopefully you saw pictures of them as you walked in the hallway. And so we offer a whole wide range of services, including a large community-based large amount of community-based programs, but also a trauma clinic at Children's Charter and a clinic in Western Mass. And today on your agenda are related to the residential and placement regs. So we're really excited to be here and want to extend a huge thank you to all of the EEC staff. I worked in government for almost 23 years and worked on contracts and did some of this work around regulation and policy. And we all have a role to play in making sure that we are providing services in communities for children, families, and young adults that really focuses around well-being and safety. And this was a real true partnership. Actually, 2 days from today is the 1-year anniversary of our first meeting. So Eugenia's over here. She was our fearless leader. It was a year ago that we started this process. So it was not a rushed process. It was very inclusive of providers. It was inclusive of all of the EEC staff. And it really presented opportunities for some difficult conversations that got us to, I think, a really, really good place. So we appreciate the private-public partnership. We're excited about the new regs coming out. I know it's been a really long time. And we are thrilled that the board is here in our space to have this important vote. So thank you to all of you, especially Secretary. I know you're new on the job. And so I appreciate you being here as well. And the commissioner, I know the commissioner, we go back some years, but I think just everybody in the room, I think, is an example of we all have a role to play, whether we're on the board or our finance folks who sit over here. Everybody really has a role to play in making sure that every kid, young adult, and family has the supports they need, and we're not getting in the way of that. And I think this is really hopeful and taking that next step. So thank you very much. Appreciate you all and looking forward to being here for the meeting.
Yeah, Tammy, thank you. I mean, as part of the DNA of this board is to get out in the field and engage with organizations like yours. And I think the message you just sent there sets us off for a great meeting today. So thank you so much for hosting us and to your team. I know this can be disruptive to day-to-day team, and I'm sure there's a team behind you that worked with the team at EEC to make this happen today. And so very grateful for that. Did comment that how beautiful the space is, so job well done.
Thank you.
I want to take a brief minute to just preview today's agenda. We'll start with an FY27 budget update. The House has passed its budget. The Senate Ways and Means released their proposal just last week, so we're sort of in the thick of the process here, and so we'll get an update on that. There's a lot to be encouraged by in both chambers' investments in CCFA and core programs, and there are also some areas we'll want to keep a close eye on around CPPI and EEC's operational funding. From there, we'll take up a discussion on informal childcare rates as a follow-up to last month's meeting. The proposal before us today is about raising those rates, moving toward greater consistency regardless of where care is provided. I think it is an important equity conversation. Looking forward to that discussion and vote as well. We'll then move to a vote on the revised regulations that Tammy referenced governing the licensure of residential programs. These regulations haven't had a comprehensive overhaul since 1995. And this revision has been a long time coming, and a tremendous amount of work has gone into getting us to this conversation today. And I want to acknowledge everyone. You mentioned many of the stakeholders, Tammy, in your opening remarks. It does take a village to get this work done, and there's been hundreds and hundreds of people, I think, involved in this process. And I'm looking at the team back there who have been integral in that and who we'll hear from. And so I want to thank you all for that. And then we'll close with an overview of the Family Child Care Capacity Pilot, which is a thoughtful, careful approach to exploring where the FCC providers can safely serve up to 12 children. It's the kind of evidence-building work that I think reflects what we do best here at EEC, so that's great. And with that, I will turn it over to the Secretary to get us started. Mr. Secretary.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Tammy, for welcoming us here. I was here bright and early, and you accommodated us and had a space all day. It's a beautiful space, and congratulations on all the success of the organization as well. Just a couple of updates. I just wanted to share that had a chance to visit Nursery with Commissioner Kershaw in Jamaica Plain, an early childhood program during Teacher Appreciation Week. And I do want to acknowledge that often we think of Teacher Appreciation Week just for K-12 educators. I was glad to be in an early childhood space and recognize the fact that our early childhood educators are just as much deserving of those accolades, and I know there's new investments and benefits and incentives that they are very deserving of that we were able to share and promote. But it was impressive to see the classrooms there, how meaningful and engaged the students were, complemented by arts programming, music and visual arts, which I think are not just nice to have, but requisite needs for our young students to have. We also, I also had a chance to learn about Nursery's family child care incubator that's designed to assist family child care educators with opening their own programs and expanding access to high quality early education, which is a model for others as we expand the breadth and quality of programming. And the most powerful part of the day was hearing from 3 real-life educators, Silvana, Deborah, and Karen, about their experiences and the types of supports that they needed to enter the profession, to be retained and stay with the profession, and then ultimately to grow as practitioners. And they were very clear that the mentoring, coaching, and the benefits, the work-life balance and benefits they received at Nursery, which has been supported by the work of EEC as well, has made it an attractive place to work and to help build their careers. And we want to see more and more of that so that our early educators will, come, stay, and grow in the profession. And so it was a wonderful experience to be there. It was also great this morning to be on Strategies for Children's 9:30 call. I've always been like a participant, and now I was like the headliner, which I felt very special being on the 9:30 call, just to introduce myself and share the commitment to early education that this administration has and all the great work that the agency has. I also plan to join a 9:30 call in Spanish because I think that's important. It's also important for me to practice my Spanish. So I look forward to doing that in the future, and it's just an amazing network and convening of advocates, and so I was glad to be a part of that. And then finally, tomorrow, the Early Education Task Force, which brings together multiple secretariats, economic development, workforce development, and the Office of Education, and Commissioner will be a part of that as well, meets for the first time that I've been a part of it to focus on how we continue to strengthen the early education space and infrastructure. There has been so much accomplished. It's pretty impressive to see over the first 2 years, and just getting prepared and reading the list of accomplishments is I think the public needs to know more about those accomplishments. But it also, it's clear we need to build on that progress to continue to tackle issues of quality, access, and affordability. So look forward to tomorrow's meeting, and I'll pass it back over to you, Chair. Thank you.
I will pass it to another 9:30 a.m. call headliner,
Regular.
Commissioner Kershaw.
A regular on the 9:30. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. We have been packing your agenda with early education and care events, and it's been an honor to get to be with you in many of those spaces and to share the amazing work happening in the early education and care sector with you. I want to thank our hosts too. Tammy Mello and I go way back to time we worked together at Department of Children and Families. And I am thrilled that you're bringing your talents to the key organization, which is such an important partner for us in the residential space. So thank you to you and your team for hosting us, but for the work that you do every day, and to Kruth for hosting here in this beautiful space and all you do to create beautiful environments, which is where the folks we work with should be working. And I don't think we enough have beautiful spaces to recognize how important it is. One of the things we heard in our Teacher Appreciation Week visits was salaries and professional development opportunities and compensation and benefits, but also recognizing and valuing those who work in early education and care and our residential programs was a really important part of people being able to feel like they could feel valued and stay in the field. So this kind of space sends that message. So thank you and congratulations for creating that for your team here. We appreciate that. Speaking of amazing teams, I want to recognize that the entire residential licensing team is here with us today in the room. Can you guys stand up, please? Some of you are already standing. So this is their regular monthly meeting, and we happen to be able to hold it here in recognition of the multiple years of work. And we are going to be taking up discussion and hopefully vote on the residential regulations later today. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank the residential team under the incredible leadership of Tim Keene, which is one of the most important things we've done over the last couple of years, which is create a new director position for this team and promote Tim Keene into that, and under the very capable leadership of our supervisors, Miguel Ortega and Kelly Buckley, and the entire team who's worked hard in partnership with our programs and providers every day to ensure compliance with regulations and make sure there are places for our children with the most complex needs to be able to live and learn and thrive. So thank you for the incredible work that you do. And I think it was one of my very first meetings with the residential team when I first started back at EEC, and they were like, we really have got to revise the regulations. It's been way too long. So I am so thrilled to be here in partnership with all of you today, and thank you for joining us. I also, during Teacher Appreciation Week, I was very excited to have the Secretary, along with Secretary Jones, as well as Under Secretary Muchala from Economic Development, join us at Nurtury. We were also announcing new teacher discounts, so you can check out on our website. We partnered with the Mass Cultural Council to make sure that our early educators have the same access to discounts at arts and culture institutions as our K-12 teachers. So continuing to kind of lift up and value the role of educators. And by the way, that includes EEC staff, and including our residential team. If you want to take a look at that list of programs, arts and culture that you can, ideas for in your programs or to support your own well-being and interest in the arts. Also, as part of Teacher Appreciation Week, I was really pleased to be able to be at Cape Cod Community College for an Educator Wellness Day sponsored by our Career Pathways program out there, and spend some time hearing about some of the unique experiences of our educators and programs working on the Cape. I also wanted to recognize that May is Mental Health Awareness Day, and our behavioral health team is hosting some connected conversations to make sure people have information about the kinds of resources that we have available to support children's behavioral and mental health, and also to support the behavioral and mental health of educators and directors working in programs. We had a lot going on last week, so apologies. We also announced the launch of the two portals we've been working on. So as part of the agency's IT modernization efforts, we were thrilled to announce the first phase of mychildcaremass.gov, which is our, let's call it the family portal, which is the first ever digital experience for families applying for childcare financial assistance. We have many steps in this journey to go to bring a truly modern system to both our providers as well as to our families. But this milestone marks really an important large step in our journey towards a more dignified, responsive system where families can do business with the agency at the times and locations that make the most sense to them in a modern context. Similarly, we launched our professional portal, which brings that same experience for modernization to our educators and staff working in early education and childcare programs. We launched it first phase focused on our learning management system, as well as our new EEC Essentials Refresher course. So we look forward to working with our partners in the community on that. Our next meeting is going to be in June in Boston, June 10th, so we look forward to seeing everyone there. And that concludes my updates.
Amazing, thank you. Before we jump to public comment, I do want to acknowledge that board member Nikki Ruiz is joining us by phone. I also want to acknowledge here in the room, you'll notice we're working on the screens. So we will get those up and running. In the meantime, we are going to try to get some printed copies of the agenda and stuff, so we'll try to roll as best we can while they work on that. So just want to bring people aware of what's going on here with the moving around. Public comment. Moving to the public comment portion of the meeting, I'd like to call up Leslie Kinney to join us. We'd ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. You can join us here at the table. I also want to acknowledge that the board has received public comment by email prior to the meeting that has been distributed to us. Leslie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Commissioner, Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak with you today. My name is Leslie Kinney. I'm the Division Director of SMUC Childcare and Head Start. We have programs in Framingham, Marlborough, Northbridge, a CFC in Whitensville, and Medway, Milford. Our Head Start also includes Westboro and our 23 communities that we serve. Our Head Start program, we have a capacity of 276 children. Happy to report we've been fully enrolled for the past year with a pretty lengthy wait list at all of our sites. I think it's very important that we understand how much early education impacts not only children and families, but the communities that we serve. In our Head Start program, there's truly comprehensive services where we're working with the whole family. It's not just educating the child, and I think that's what I wanted to really talk about today was, supporting the whole family through health services, nutrition, family engagement, disability services, transportation, which is a huge topic for everybody, mental health supports, and many families that we work with are experiencing homelessness, food insecurity, trauma, and other significant stressors in their life. And the supports that we provide are so important for their learning, for their family, and for everyone to kind of move ahead together. The mental health services in particular, I think everyone in the field would agree that there's just an increasing number of children and families that need these supports. So that's been a big drive for us. Our staff work closely with the mental health consultants and behavioral health professionals. We support children's social and emotional development. We assist families during difficult times, and we help teachers to respond appropriately to behavior and emotional challenges in the classroom, which unfortunately there's been a pretty large uptick over the past several years. Early intervention and strong social and emotional supports make a lasting difference for the children and the families that we serve. This past year, we actually just opened up a new social and emotional learning classroom where we do small socialization classes. It's run by licensed clinicians, which has been wonderful. It also gives children kind of a place to go if they need to just kind of regulate themselves. So that's been a new endeavor of ours this year. Our childcare programs, we intentionally strive to operate as much like a Head Start program as possible, regardless of where that funding comes from. We feel that the services and the standards that Head Start has is really important to the family. So we do our very best, regardless of the funding source, to make some of the comprehensive services happen to the best of our ability on the childcare side. We have 400 children in our childcare program right now. And it is because of like the strong standards that are embedded in the Head Start standards, including staff training and developmental screening, family engagement, and the comprehensive services, the same high-quality outcomes are reflected in the childcare classrooms as a result of using those standards. Unfortunately, despite the tremendous need in our communities, we are currently operating the childcare program at about 72% capacity. The income-eligible vouchers being frozen for as long as they have, and unfortunately, we lost the contracts, has really impacted our ability to serve the families in our community. And we're ready. We have qualified staff. We have classrooms. We have capacity. So I just really wanted to make sure that is out there. And we're ready to go. And we just ask that, you guys, I know your hands are tied as well, but I just want to make sure that story kind of comes across. We're proud of the work with our teachers and our staff do every day. We've invested in qualified educators, ongoing professional development. We know how important these early years are. Our goal is to continue helping more children and families in our communities accessing safe, nurturing, high-quality, and early education supports. We respectfully ask the board to continue advocating for investments in early education and care, to include restoring and expanding vouchers and contracts so programs like ours can fully serve the families that are waiting for care. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership, your advocacy, and your commitment to the children and families of the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank
you
you.
for your commitment in time and leadership as well. So
Thank
thanks
you.
for being here. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'd like to invite Michelle Hamowitz up. Hi, Michelle.
Hello. Good afternoon. How you doing? Thanks for having me here. My name is Michelle Hamowitz. I'm the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Head Start Association. I'm so excited to share with you a little bit about what's going on with Head Start these days and the challenging federal environment we're in. So MHSA, we're a membership association that represents the 28 Head Start programs in Massachusetts, including SMOC. Head Start, as you know, is a federal grant program, provides early education, comprehensive child and family services to vulnerable children and families. We serve about 10,000 children and families in Massachusetts right now from birth to age 5. And as you know, Head Start children and families are among the most vulnerable here in Massachusetts. We serve children from families earning under the federal poverty level, children and families experiencing homelessness, and other very vulnerable children at no cost to the family. Importantly, 27% right now of our Head Start children in Massachusetts also receive CCFA funding to supplement their Head Start funding to provide for full day, full year services for eligible families. As you all know, it's been a challenging year and a half for Head Start and other federal programs that serve low-income families. We've faced unrelenting federal attacks, calls for elimination and reduction, and the stripping of our federal partners and supports. These challenges deeply impact our 28 Head Start programs and the 10,000 children and families they serve. But as you heard from Leslie, also impact our greater mixed delivery system. Head Start standards, funding, resources uplift our childcare system well beyond our funded capacity. Earlier this week, the federal administration released a notice of proposed rulemaking to rescind all wage and benefits requirements from Head Start program performance standards. These requirements were added in 2024 and would have required Head Start programs to, among other things, maintain salary scales equivalent to public preschool teachers and comprehensive benefits packages. Rather than supporting the funding to allow programs to meet these high standards that we know our teachers deserve, the proposal seeks to pull the target away and remove the focus from wage progress. We know we can't take our eye off the goal of increased early educator wages. Our programs have made strong progress on wages in the past several years due to Massachusetts investments in Head Start state supplemental grants and C3, among others. Our average classroom teacher in Head Start still earns more than $30,000 less than our average kindergarten teacher here in Massachusetts. This Head Start proposal we saw earlier this week is expected to be the first of 2 proposals for Head Start this year. We're expecting a proposal in the coming months that's likely to strip regulations from Head Start, including quality standards, health and safety requirements, child staff ratios, among others. The New York Times recently profiled the federal director of the Administration for Children and Families, who was quoted as seeking a, quote, bonfire of regulations, and stating that federal child care regulation should, quote, fit on an index card in my back pocket. The White House's federal FY27 budget proposal, which includes another year of flat funding for Head Start, further describes the administration's interest in allowing state standards to apply to programs by eliminating federal standards related to monitoring, health and safety, child-staff ratios, and definitions of quality. This watering down of federal standards jeopardizes the support and resources on which Head Start depends to provide high-quality comprehensive services to vulnerable families and puts our whole mixed delivery system at risk. As I say just about every day these days, we're so grateful to be in Massachusetts at this time, and we're grateful for ongoing partnership with this board, with the department, with Commissioner Kershaw and our Head Start State Collaboration Office. We know the focus of our state administration and the team at EEC on supporting our most vulnerable families is there, and we're glad to work together, but want to make sure we start to highlight some of these issues that are really going to start bubbling to the surface in a scary way in the coming months, and look forward to working together on solutions for our most vulnerable families. So thank you.
Thank you for the sobering update, Michelle.
I just bring gloom and doom these days.
No,
I'm doing
no,
my best.
there's a lot of good you're doing, and the partnership is important. And like you said, we're happy to be here in Massachusetts. So all good.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for being here. We have before us the minutes of the April 8th, 2026 board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or edits? Hearing none, I'd make the motion to approve the minutes of the April 8th, 2026 board meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. And then we'll get to our first first agenda item on the budget. Here we go. I'll get there. And I'll invite Eric and Christelle. Are you going to join?
Yeah, great.
Do you guys need a paper copy of the presentation? Are you good? Okay, great. All right. And I know they're printing some, so we'll get some spread around the room as well. So.
Apologies. So yes, Crystal Lanton, our budget director, and Eric Hansen, our chief financial officer and acting chief operating officer, will join us to provide an update on where we are in the budget process and what the different versions look like right now as we continue to monitor what's happening in the process.
All right. Well, Chair, board members, Secretary, and Commissioner, thank you for welcoming us back here today to talk about the budget. As Chair Belcito noted, we are in the throes of budget development for FY27 right now in the spring. The House has just released its budget last month. You've seen the governor's budget. We'll compare a little bit of what the House's budget does vis-a-vis governor's budget, and then talk a little bit about next steps in the process, so Senate Ways and Means and moving forward into July. To kick us off, I'll turn it to Crystal Lanton, who will lead this discussion.
So good afternoon, Commissioner, Chair, Secretary, and wonderful board members. My name is Crystal Lanton, EEC's Budget Director for the past 3 years, and it's my pleasure to present to you the current fiscal year 27 budget updates. So the last you saw me was in February, and at that time, I went over with you all the budget cycle. I presented to you the first iteration of the fiscal year 27 budget, which was the fiscal year 27 House 2, or also known as the governor's budget proposal. We are now in May, which brings us to the House of Representatives budget, which was proposed on April 15th and made final on May 5th. On May 5th, Senate Ways and Means also released their budget proposal, which is currently undergoing debates. On the next few slides, and apologize for everyone who doesn't have slides. On the next few slides, I will go over the highlights of the House of Representatives budget specific to EEC and also walk through some of the Senate Ways and Means budget highlights. But just to familiarize you all again with the budget cycle, we are now, I would say, in step 3 of the budget phase, which the House and the Senate both released their iteration of their budget. While the House of Representatives have finalized theirs, the Senate is currently debating amendments, and once the Senate budget is final, then the House and Senate will convene in a conference committee, and at the end of the month, or next month for that matter, will come together to release a compromise budget, or I would say a middle ground budget, for the governor to review. And once the conference budget is released, the governor will have her final say and sign it into law for fiscal year 27. So before I go into the highlights, some of the, I guess, vocabulary that I want to familiarize you with is House 2, is also the governor's budget. I don't want you guys to get you confused with regular House budget, which is the House of Representatives budget. So if you hear me say House 2, H2, that all means the governor's budget. House budget is in relation to the House of Representatives budget. Okay, so on May 5th, the House of Representatives made public their final fiscal year 27 budget recommendation, which included $1.8 billion for EEC. There was a lot of alignment with the governor's budget, which I'm extremely grateful for. If you had the slides in front of you, on the left side of the slide would show the alignment with the governor's budget. So some of the highlights that align with the governor's budget include $475 million for C3, which level funds the program from the governor's proposal and also from fiscal year 26 final budget. You'll see a slight difference in the line by line for the fiscal year 27 budget, in which $5 million of the general fund is essentially paid out of the fair share line item, but overall, it just level funds at $475 million. Also included in the House of Representatives budget was $1.2 billion for caseload needs. And within this funding level of $1.2 billion, the House of Representatives budget includes an additional $1.4 million above the fiscal year 27 governor's recommendation for the DCF DTA line item. That additional $1.4 million is projected to expand access and support services to approximately 77 additional children within the DTA DCF line, caseload for that matter. And then also included in the final House budget that aligns with the governor's budget for fiscal year 27 are $20 million for CCR&Rs, which is the Childcare Resource and Referrals Agency, $20 million for Head Start, $5 million for Early Childhood Mental Health Grants, $2.97 for Career Pathways, $11 million for CFCE grants, 4.25 for Parent Child Plus program, and 1.75 for Reach Out and Read. The continued alignment with the governor's budget demonstrates ongoing recognition of EEC's priorities and support for the governor's initiatives. So again, very grateful for the House of Representatives budget proposal. On the left side, the right side of the slide would essentially show the differences from the governor's budget. And so within the differences that you'll see, the EEC administrative line item is funded at $20.3 million in the House budget. That also includes some earmarks, so $7.5 million for the ECE scholarships and smaller earmarks as well. But excluding those earmarks, the remaining operating funding for EEC administration reflects a slight reduction of about $413,000 compared to the fiscal year 27 governor's budget recommendation. While the House budget reflects a slight reduction in the overall operational funding, it does restore EEC's fiscal year 2025 administrative cost levels, which are necessary for EEC to support compliance with the federal CCDF claiming requirements. Also noted, which you'll see different from the governor's budget, is that CPPI is only funded at $5 million in the House of Representatives budget, reflecting a reduction of $32 million from the governor's proposal. This remains a significant watch area for EEC as we continue to monitor how the fiscal year 27 budget evolves throughout the remainder of the budget process.
I just want to pause on those 2 points for a moment. As Crystal stated, we're very grateful for the restoration of our operational funding. It's been a challenging year, but we were in 26 with that reduction, but we were able to continue forward with that, meet our federal matching obligations with some one-time solves this current year. And again, for CPPI, that watch area, something that we'll see, I think, in the Senate's budget as we move forward with that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
So this next slide just shows line by line the House of Representatives budget proposal by program. Again, much alignment with the fiscal year 27 governor's proposal.
We're on slide 6 now.
Sorry.
There's the audience.
And then this next slide just shows, again, the line-by-line differences between the governor's proposal and then the House of Representatives budget. If you want to take a look.
I just want to mention how grateful we are for the support within the House of Representatives budget. It's both aligned very, very closely with the governor's budget, and so both maintains and restores some of the priorities that the agency has for operations and programming, and follows many of our priorities, and in particular around C3 and childcare financial assistance. So grateful for the support from our colleagues in the House.
We'll move on to slide 8, fair share supplemental.
The board may also appreciate that it's a much simpler budget than than you have seen. They have organized line items and done fund splits, so so we can see sort of with an easier sense of picture, sort of where things are funded from and where the priorities are within the budget. So I know our team is happy about that as well.
Very happy with that. In addition to the fiscal year 27 House budget release, I also want to highlight the ongoing fiscal year 26 fair share supplemental budget process, which could serve a significant complement to the fiscal year 27 budget if passed. The fiscal year 26 fair share supplemental follows the traditional budget development process, beginning with the governor's proposal, followed by House and Senate iterations, and then ultimately a conference budget that will be presented to the governor for final approval. This fair share supplemental funding would carry a 3-year spending cycle, allowing funds to be spent across fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 29, and provides additional flexibility for essentially long-term implementation planning, if passed. So the governor's proposal of the fair share supplemental includes outside section language authorizing the transfer of up to $150 million in fair share funding into caseload accounts to support access. The House Ways and Means version of the fiscal year 26 fair share supplemental includes $38.7 million for EEC, and that's mainly for caseload. And then the breakdown for that 38.7 would essentially be 12.5 million to increase access and reduce the income eligible wait list, 10.7 million dedicated for CCFA contracted seats, 8 million for childcare access for EEC staff, and then a portion of that, the 7.5 million for the continued services for the loan forgiveness program. The Senate version of the fiscal year 26 fair share supplemental did not include any funding for EEC. And if the House proposal are adopted through conference, the funding would provide meaningful opportunities to expand access for families, reduce the wait list, and offer greater spending flexibility over the 3 years. Overall, I'm pleased with the fiscal year 27 House of Representatives budget and the fair share sub proposal for EEC. As it largely aligns with both EEC's strategic priorities and the governor's initiatives to support the early education and care system across the Commonwealth. This budget reflects strong continued investment in key programmatic areas and positions the agency very well moving forward. We will continue to closely monitor these watch areas in the budget process as the budget process moves forward, and are interested to see how discussions evolve through the remaining stages of the conference process.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Last week, Senate Ways and Means released its version of the budget, which serves as the baseline for the Senate's budget. As Crystal mentioned, that's still under development through the debate process. However, if you look at the last slide in this section, titled Next Up, Senate Ways and Means and Senate Budgets, you'll see some of our major areas of alignment with Senate Ways and Means as the executive branch, and then there are several watch areas I'd like to draw folks' attention to. So again, the initial Senate Ways and Means budget funds EEC well at $1.84 billion and aligns across many programmatic areas. Support for C3, support for CCFA and Head Start, as well as wraparound services. That said, there are some key areas the agency is watching as we move into conference, as Senate debate, and then into conference. Among these are the operational and administrative funding for our agency and Senate Ways and Means budget was about $3.8 million below what we had asked for in the governor's budget. This would hamper our operations and pose some challenges to meeting our federal spending kind of matching obligations for that. As I mentioned at the top of this discussion, we were able to work through a similar situation this current fiscal year using some one-time solves and fair share funding. The next year would be much more challenging to do that and will require some serious decisions.
Yeah, let me just say that, we, in this year's fiscal budget, that our administrative line item landed at about 3.8 million below our operating level from FY25, meaning there was a reduction of 3.8 million, which is a very significant reduction for us, which would mean a reduction in force at the agency. So the governor's budget, basically, we used one-time funds this year to maintain continuing operations for administration, primarily for staff, our incredibly talented EC team, also IT initiatives. So we were able to use one-time funds, which we do not have access to this year. So we were very grateful to see in the governor's budget a restoration to that FY25 funding level, which allows us to maintain existing staffing levels. The House budget also included that level that would bring us back up to that 25 level. And we're disappointed to see in the Senate Ways and Means version that we are down again in that. So this will be definitely a focus for us in terms of ensuring that we can maintain key operations and supports and progress at the agency. So you'll be hearing more from us about this, I'm sure, as well.
Last thing with Senate Ways and Means budget as we're entering debate especially is I want to note that the CPPI funding falls a little bit below what we asked for in the governor's budget. So Senate Ways and Means funded it at about $28 million, which we're happy to see because we didn't get that level of support in the House. And that $28 million would maintain kind of existing services. However, it would limit the agency's ability to help move CPPI districts into new gateway cities communities, as well as move existing CPPI districts along the implementation continuum. It's very much a maintenance budget. It's in Ways and Means right now. There are some amendments I think we're floating out there that address this. So we'll be watching those closely as the Senate goes into the debate, and we anticipate its final budget in the next couple of weeks.
So I'll just remind board members that the CPPI program is a multi-year implementation strategy. It starts with planning grants, early implementation, mid-implementation, full implementation. And the proposal that the governor included would allow us to move programs from where they are, whether they're in planning or early implementation, to the next step in each of those processes within existing communities. It would also have allowed us to invite the 7 remaining gateway cities who are not yet participating to come in for a planning grant and sort of set them down that path. So the Senate Ways and Means proposal would allow us just to maintain existing funding levels, so existing implementation status just for the programs that are currently participating. But I want to recognize and thank Senator Lovely, who has filed an amendment for us to restore, to add back to the CPP line item to match the governor's House 2 level, which would allow us to continue our progress and commitment around moving universally accessible pre-K, particularly in our gateway cities, but also within the communities that we are operating CPPI in right now. So.
More to come. We'll be back again next month.
Yeah. Well, there and
This is like
just
a
yeah,
mini-series,
yeah,
something
right.
like
It is
Yes,
a mini
yeah.
Just the 2 other watch areas that we wanted
correct.
to point out for the Senate Ways and Means so far, which is that they eliminated our Career Pathways program, which is a very critical and unique partnership between EEC and our 15 community colleges, which is supporting educators across the Commonwealth to advance their professional development opportunities and is a priority for this administration. And the Reach Out and Read program, which provides literacy opportunities through pediatricians and medical offices, was also eliminated in the Senate Ways and Means. But again, we are tracking some amendments that may address those as well. So, questions?
Any questions, comments from the board? Jen?
Question, sorry, I can't see you.
Yeah.
To your last point, Commissioner, about the Pathways program, I was just curious if the agency has sort of forecasted or calculated if that line item is dropped to 3 million so significantly from this year's budget, how many less people will get a workforce certification? How many, from the workforce perspective, how many less teachers are we able to certify? And maybe the answer is you don't have that right this minute, but I'd be curious to help figure that out because that will help tell the story.
I don't have the number handy right now.
No problem. Yeah,
but,
just curious.
When we were talking about that $3 million,
Right.
In the operating funding, reminding, I think it would allow for services for at least one semester or half level of services across both semesters.
So the final House budget included, in addition to $3 million for career pathways, which is slightly less than half of what we're currently funding career pathways at right now, which is about $7.5 million. It included $7.5 million in scholarship funding, which we have used in the past to kind of make career pathways whole. So we were hopeful that through the conference committee that we will retain the $3 million that's in the House and the governor's proposal, and potentially those scholarship funds, which would allow us to have some flexibility to maintain access through career pathways. But we will get back to you with the impact of both the full elimination of the program and what impact that would have on sort of our educator professional pathways, as well as what $3 million would mean.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Episode 4 coming soon.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for the
Thank you.
update.
Yeah.
And then we'll move to our next panel. I think, is Eric staying?
Yeah, Eric,
Eric, you're staying, right?
Yeah, okay. And-
Tyrese, is Ashley here?
Yeah, Ashley's here too. So Ashley White, our research director, and Tyrese Nicholas, Deputy Commissioner for Family Access and Engagement. So board members, you'll remember that at last month's meeting, we had a fairly extensive presentation on our family, friends, and neighbor care. We had a legislative requirement to do a report on the status of family, friends, and neighbor care and a number of kind of key items, including sort of funding and scope. A subset of the broader family, friends, and neighbor network is our informal care providers, who are a small number of providers, which is a type of care that families can choose through our Childcare financial assistance program. So if a family chooses to use an informal care provider, they have to follow certain health and safety requirements from the agency to receive financial assistance from us. You may also remember, and the team will talk about it a little bit, that the funding for those informal care providers is both very low and somewhat complicated. And so I'm happy to have the team back this week to talk about a proposal we have for you to address how very low those rates are and also how complicated they are for consideration. We are presenting the proposal for your consideration this month and anticipate asking for a vote next month. Once you've had a chance to consider the proposal. Okay, team.
Afternoon, Tyrese Nicholas, Deputy Commissioner of Family Access and Engagement. We're happy to be here again. I think I'm the most frequent flyer over the last 4 or 5 months.
You're one of our headliners, just like these.
Thank you, Chair. So one key element to the work that we've been doing related to family, friend, and neighbor care is that we really have been working in partnership with the Care That Works Coalition as well as other stakeholders. And through our engagement with them as we were building the Family, Friend, and Neighbor Care legislative report, we consistently heard over and over again that rates matter. That rates matter not just for the caregivers, but for the families, and to ensure that there's some level of equity for those that are providing the care. And so part of our exploration in the family-friendly neighbor care space was included looking at the rates. So on slide 11, I don't have my glasses, so bear with me. On slide 11, yes. On slide 11, we specifically are talking about FFN care within within early education and care. As the commissioner stated, that's called informal childcare. We also call it license exempt. It's license exempt because it is that. It's exempt from certain licensing requirements, and it is care that is provided either in the family's home or in the relative's home, or the in the relative's home. It's not eligible to be in the non-relative's home. Key to differences of family, friend, and neighbor care broadly and within the EEC system is that both the caregiver and the family must be approved by EEC. So the family must be receiving child care financial assistance and identify the caregiver as a potential ICC or informal child care caregiver. And then the caregiver must complete a background record check, some health and safety, as well as training and some other light licensing monitoring requirements. So I'd like to lift that up just to kind of ground us, because there are going to be some differences we talk about related to the rates. So there will be a rate that's connected to care provided in the home, and then there's the rate that is connected that care provided in the relative's home. So in the child's home, outside of the child's home. Last month, we shared that out of our FFN legislative report, we had some next steps. One of those next steps was exploring, and we're now, sorry, Jackie, next slide. Yeah. We're now on slide 12, which is under proposed FFN and informal care next steps. So one of our next steps was exploring the informal child care reimbursement rate structure. And so through exploring that, we were able to really take a good look at it and what it looks like across the, I'm going to say, informal child care system and the children that are being served. Next slide. The next couple of slides are data slides. We're now on slide 13, informal childcare by caregiver type and location. So as I just said, location matters as it relates to the rates. So on the left side of the slide, you will see child count by caregiver type and location. So you see in relative home and in child home. So you'll see the majority of children that are receiving informal child care, it is in their home, and the small portion of that, well, in the relative's home, sorry. And in the child's home, it's a smaller number. The total number of children currently, I'll say up until April 16th is where this data is from, the total's 566 children being served. So of that 566, 365 are in the relative's home, and the remainder are in the child's home. Key to note that you'll see that there are no non-relatives providing care in the non-relative home. It's not something that EEC allows. On the right side of slide 12, you'll see the caregiver. So you'll see the number of relative caregivers broken out by caregivers in their own home and the caregiver in the child's home. And then you'll see there are only 8 non-relatives caring for children receiving child care financial assistance. Next slide. Slide 14 is our informal child care by age and region. And so you'll see on the left side of the slide, we're showing the children by their age group, and on the right, it's going to be children by the region. So last month, we shared a very similar slide. This data is more current for FY26, and you'll see that the majority of children receiving this type of care are school age. And then you'll see the other variation. So there's 372 school-age children, 97 preschool, 38 toddler, is that 38? Oh, 58, sorry, toddler, and 39 infants. And then on the right side, we have our child count by region, and you'll see the majority of children fall in our western and our northeast region, with our Metro Boston falling third. For those in the room, for Northeast, it's 231. Western is 192 children. Metro Boston is 89. Central is 26. Metro is 14. And Southeast and Cape is 14 as well. And our next slide. So on our next slide, we're looking at data around informal childcare by the funding source and income. When we say funding source here, we're relating it to our different programs, so income eligible, Department of Transitional Related Care, or Department of Children and Family Related Care. You'll notice on this slide that the majority of children receiving this type of care are income eligible children. And also the majority of them, we call it their service activity or their need is because they are working, right? They are working. On the right side, you'll see what the income level is, and you'll notice that 56% are between 100 and 50% SMI. So that tells us that the majority of the families that are selecting this type of care are the families that are most in need. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk more about the actual rates.
Sure. So if you make your way to slide 16, you'll see a table that lists current caregiver rates. I want to remind folks that these are daily rates and are split kind of 4 ways, both by part-time and full-time. And then, as Tyrese had mentioned, the location of care, in the child's home or outside of the child's home. We recognize that these rates, especially as daily rates, are pretty low. So you'll see that part-time rates range from about $10.40 to $14.74, and full-time is just slightly above that, ranging between $17 and $24. Now, I'd like to add that these rates are a small portion of the CCFA budget at $2 million. And the rates that we're going to propose that you'll see in the following slides are an incremental step towards increasing care of this type. It's a recognition that this is an important type of care for families and one that gives families choice in how their children are cared for as well. I will note too that as you move forward in the proposal when we present it, that the distinction in the current rates based on the location of care, what we're going to propose is one that will obviate that distinction and moves away from having a lower rate based on care in a child's home and focuses more on the care itself. So investing not in the location of care, but the care itself. So I'll turn it over to Ashley on slide 17 to walk us through.
Hi, everyone. Ashley White. I'm Research Director here at EEC, and I was on a good roll for a few months, but then I took an absence, so it's good to be back. So I'm going to be talking about the proposal, and Eric gave a good sort of overview of that. We took a similar approach that we did for our previous rate increase, which is that we wanted to sort of have some principles and things that we kept in mind when thinking about this rate increase. And so on slide 17, those considerations are outlined. And they'll look relatively, I think, familiar to what you saw a few months ago, but I think really stress what Eric had said, which is that we recognize that these rates are low, and that costs are increasing, not just for sort of center-based and family child care programs, but also informal care providers as well. And a big sort of piece for the justification and reason behind our proposal is really about centering family access and affordability and family choice, making sure that families have the options that work best for them, and that the agency supports those options equitably across the board. So our proposal is going to be to move towards consistent rates for informal care. So if we go
I think
to
it's
the,
also important just to note that it's federally required that we offer this type of option for families. So in addition to the formal care options, that we also have informal care as an option. So it's a small but important part of the child care financial assistance system, with supporting families that may not have other choices, but also requirement from our federal partners.
Yeah, it follows under our equal access and family and parent choice.
so if we go to the next slide, slide 18, this hopefully outlines clearly our proposal, which is to simplify and align our rates across those informal care settings. So no longer distinguishing between relative and relative's home or relative or non-relative in the child's home by the sort of price or reimbursement rate value. And so we first aligned the rates, got them to be sort of equal to each other, which meant sort of adjusting the rate for care in the child's home a little bit higher than the rate in the relative's home, and then was able to do an additional increase above that. So we made them match and then sort of gave an additional increase. So you'll see that there's a $10 increase for care in the child's home, that rate, and a $3 increase for care in the relative's home, but that they are both being proposed at $27.80. And those would be equal across the board. This represents about $1 million, which the agency is fortunate to be able to have to put forth towards these rates, and I think represents about a 50% increase, as Eric noted, about $2 million dedicated to this. This would add an additional $1 million to those rates. So while I think an incremental step, hopefully a really meaningful one that the agency is proud to be able to support and put forth to all of you.
And also, as we think about the continuum of care, these rates still remain less than half of the lowest rate for our licensed family child care providers, who obviously have to follow much more stringent licensing requirements. So supporting this type of care, wanting to simplify and recognize the cost increases and supporting families' choice in this, but also thinking about the continuum of our provider options and making sure we're not disrupting the formal care market for families or for providers, while also recognizing the need for sort of simplification and recognition of this workforce.
So essentially, we're going away from having the 4 different rates to having essentially just the 2 rates.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? So this will come to us next meeting for a formal vote. Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to present this month and then give opportunity for both public comment, should members of the public want to weigh in, or members of the Care That Works Coalition, who we've been working closely with on our overall FFN work, or if there's additional work that the board is interested in us doing between now and next month.
Carolyn?
Just curious, because so many are school-age children, do we know if there's any correlation with either the lack of or the cost of after-school programming that is contributing to people choosing informal childcare?
So we don't have that data yet. We potentially could survey the families that are choosing this care. We do know who the families are. Anecdotally, we heard many families have different types of schedules, and so it may be that they may need after-school care way after school because the parents are working overnight and those sorts of things. But without having actual real data on it, we can't tell you for sure where the correlation is.
Yeah, I mean, I never went to an after-school program because it wasn't available, but I'm just wondering, my mother stayed home, until we were in school full-time, but it's just curious to me that that's such a large part of this. And I know that, in a lot of cities and towns, after-school programming is either very costly or they just don't have it. And the same with is any of it attributable to half half-day K0 and K1 for the preschoolers, because depending on where you live and the district that you're in,
get out at
it impacts the type of program that you might be offered. And so if you are a working parent and, preschool's only from 9 to 12, or at your school
Or even to
district or
3.
whatever,
Yeah.
then you have to supplement it with something else. I mean, obviously, it's not a significant amount of money and it's not gonna, but I think it does send a positive message that this type of work is valued and supported. So thank you very much for that.
But I think your point, Member Kane, is can we learn something from the data on how families are choosing? We do know that, the largest number of families that are on the waiting list for childcare financial
school
assistance
age.
are school age. So, and we probably do know from our childcare desert data, which we probably don't know right this minute, but we can bring it back next month to you, sort of what the kind of scarcity or availability of school age, but it is a type of care that is in high demand and that we need greater access to. Certainly childcare financial assistance, so families can access the formal care market if that's what they choose, and then the informal care market if that's what they're choosing as
And
well.
in case I missed it, do we know the ages of the children?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
We group
the-
them by.
we group them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would know, we
We
would
do
have
know them.
individual data on the children's age, but the way we've grouped it here is infant, toddler, how we typically think
Yeah.
about.
Right,
age
for the
groups of
school
kids.
age, though, I was just wondering sort of what.
The range.
Yeah.
For school
Oh.
age, it would be 5 and up.
Well, I know it would be
but do
5 and up,
we-
but do
What's
they,
the
Oh,
like,
the
within that?
distribution.
Do they
I don't
skew
know.
towards 5 or do they
5 or
skew towards?
yeah,
Right.
12.
We can
13. We
probably
can
look at that,
up.
yeah, and bring that back. Great question, yeah.
We definitely have that.
Again, an opportunity for us to use this information to inform where there might be need in the system or understand better why families are making this choice versus another choice. Is it because that's their preference or is it because there's a scarcity? We don't know right now.
But we can bring that question to the advisory council that we're going to have for Family Friendly Neighbor Care. So,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we can continue to explore. So this was really like, what's something that we can do, right?
Right.
We've been hearing, we were listening and we were listening. We were like, we're listening, we hear you. And as we learned more and we understood it better, because it took some learning on our end too, we were like, okay, is there anything that we can do? And we know it's a small initial step, but it actually shows to the folks that we've been working with and partnering with that we heard them. And this is our commitment to continuing to look at it because it is a choice for some families.
Yeah, I appreciate the point too. I think, I'm trying to recall from last month, there was a stat that stuck with me of like 64% of the dollars were used for school age children, right? So to your point, like there's something going on there, right? So it's interesting. Yeah. Mr. Secretary.
Just a question, do you anticipate expansion based on the increase in rates?
Do you mean by that expansion and uptake of this type of
Yeah,
care?
uptake, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I would just, this is sort of pontification a little bit, but
You answer, I'll answer.
I think that part of our motivation too is that we didn't want to be inadvertently promoting folks to be
Right.
choosing one type of care over the other if it was what was best for them. And so I think this allows us to sort of actually see what happens in the market and where families decide if that sort of distribution changes, and allow us to gather data and information potentially. But I'm not sort of sure. Yeah.
So I will say, I don't know that you'll see an increase because remember what is key to understanding informal childcare in the EEC system is that the family has to be receiving childcare financial assistance and identify the caregiver. So it's not an instance where there's something has changed and now you can apply for this type of care. Now what it could mean if access opens, maybe more families may choose it because the rate is a little bit higher, but it's still significantly low. I don't know. The difference would be a parent could say, well, you know what, I want the care to be provided in my home, and it's the same rate. Right now, the majority of the caregivers are providing the care in their home, which is the higher rate. So
That
the
might
lower
be
rate
driving.
applies. It could be the driver, yeah, the lower rate. So I would say if anything, you may see a shift in the location of care.
I mean, some of the work we're going to be doing around just making sure that we're talking about, and our partners, our family access partners in the community are talking about informal childcare as an option for families who qualify for childcare financial assistance, along with the other options. We haven't been doing that as consistently. The application isn't
It's
as.
not on our website.
It's not on our
that way,
website. It's
yeah.
not as consistent. So I think we are interested in making sure families are aware of this option. But again, if they qualify for childcare financial assistance, we are agnostic on whether they choose this or a center-based program or a family childcare home. When they're making that choice, they would work with the childcare resource and referral agency to kind of make a selection that makes the most sense for their family. So, but making this a little bit more consistent and transparent and clear that it is an option for families, and a slight increase in the rate. We will track it closely because we are interested in that same question. Would a change like this really influence the market?
Yeah, it's hard because the part of like a family having to say, hey, I've identified a potential caregiver. It's not set up where there's a list of providers the way it is for our center-based programs and our family childcare programs. So currently, secretaries say you reach out to one of our childcare resource and referral agencies, you have been offered funding, they'll say, hey, what type of care are you interested in? And they'll say, here are your options, center-based care, family childcare, and also there's informal childcare, and that means you have a relative or a friend who wants to care for the child, and then the family would have to identify who that person is versus, hey, I live in the area, I live in Brockton, can you give me a list of providers? And they would give you a list of the licensed providers, which would be your family childcare or your center-based programs. So it's not like its own separate program. It's really the family saying, hey, I have someone I'd like to care for my child.
And Tyrese, if somebody has qualified for childcare financial assistance and has made the choice to use informal care and then changes their mind, what happens? They want it now a child reaches a certain age or a new after school program opens up in their community. What would happen for them?
So then they would go back to the CCR&R and they would provide them a list of resources. They would ask them similar questions. Do you want care close to your home or your job? What are you looking for? And then they would essentially map it out and they would provide the list that best met the family's needs.
So if families qualified for childcare financial assistance, they may choose informal care because that works for their hours or the age of their child now, and then they would be able to
They could
transfer
go
that
right over.
into a licensed
and some
option.
do, and some may say, hey, I want to go to camp for the summer, and so that child may go to camp during the summer, and then when school starts up, they go back to their informal childcare caregiver. And that's any family, right? Any family gets to choose. So if a family decides at any time they want to switch their care, they can switch their care. They're authorized for childcare financial assistance, and that authorization gives them the flexibility to say this program no longer works for me, or I'm in a center-based program, I think my child may do better in this family childcare program. They have that choice as well.
Most circumstances.
Dr. Lucas.
I just want to express appreciation for the fact that you're really centering the caregiving as opposed to the location in this proposal, right? Like I mentioned last month that my grandmother is the person who provided childcare for me, right? And I think about, as a kid, the one summer when we moved from her house to my house because I was taking swimming lessons. The care was the same, right? And so, like, I see you
That's a great example.
seeing them and valuing that my grandma is the same regardless of if it's in her house or my house for one summer, right? And so the value of that care is the same. And I think that also brings into alignment with the general understanding of the agency around the value of the care given to all early educators, inclusive of all the folks who are in the licensed programs, right? We want to center those folks and the worth and the value of the work that they do in caring for the young children and their families and their communities that they're embedded in. So I appreciate bringing everyone kind of in alignment and making sure that what is centered is the work that is being done.
Thank you for that feedback, and I think, too, not only does it bring alignment across our agency priorities and vision, but also Massachusetts in alignment with other types of informal care throughout states to the rest of the country. We were the only state, I believe, that had a distinction based on location of care.
From what we could find.
From what we could find, yeah.
I'm searching a large.
So,
Yes, say that.
Google.
step in the right direction. Thank you.
So we searched, Ashley, Ashley and her team, they searched. We were like, are there other states whose rates are set up similar to ours? And we could not find one. We could not find one, so.
We also searched our own archives to
And we-
figure out,
no,
like,
I-
why would it have been set up different by location? And we also couldn't find that, so. But you're right, that we believe early childhood education and childcare is an experience, not a setting, so, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we will see you next month. And with that,
You will.
we will take a 10-minute break. Thanks.
Thank you, team.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We will turn it over to the commissioner to tee up our next panel.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I am incredibly pleased to have our residential and placement team and the team that's been working on the revisions to the regulations governing our residential programs, who represent a whole team at EEC as well as a whole working group. And I just want to recognize Eugenia Soilis, who has for a year been really working closely with a working group of residential providers who have been incredible partners and had some hard conversations. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that's happened here and the thoughtful, collaborative work internally and externally to create a set of recommended revisions to our residential regulations that reflect the experience we want children and youth who are being served by these programs to have, for the educators that are in those programs. And you have heard a lot about the changes and the revisions over the last 3 years as we've been working on this. So I'm very pleased to have the team here to present kind of our next step in this journey, which would be to seek the board's vote to approve us to send them for promulgation, and then we start the hard work of implementation. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim. I'm going to thank you for your leadership. What a gift it is to EEC to have you in this role. How lucky the Commonwealth is to have you in service, and thank you for leading this team to this important moment.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your trust and your commitment to our work as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Commissioner Chair Balsito, Secretary Shrike, and the board. Happy to be here again. Not looking to take Teresa's title away from
You're close.
frequency.
You're a pretty
but
frequent
you're-
flyer, yeah.
you noted last
You're up
night we were
there.
close. Yeah, correct. Well, thank you for the time. So we'll now just do a brief highlight for you all, the approach we took and what brought us here today. As Chair Balsito noted earlier, our residential regulations have not been revised in quite some time, 30 plus years. So we had an overall commitment to keep the children, the families, and the workforce at the center of our regulatory revision. Our goals during, thank you, I have the clicker and I didn't go there, appreciate it. Our goals during this revision were to eliminate outdated language and practices while promoting inclusive language and best practices to reflect the needs of our varied program populations, while at the same time streamline the regulations to assure efficiency and avoid duplication. Additional emphasis was to enhance compliance and transparency while being meaningful of minimizing financial impacts on our programs. Overall, our approach centered on research and evidence-based practice to inform our regulatory revisions and subsequent policy changes. Kelly?
Thanks. The clicker is back. I thought, yes, no clicker. We're not going to have to fight over who's doing the clicker. But thank you, Jackie. Thanks, Tim. So for a quick recap, the following boxes highlight the key areas of reform which help shape proposed changes of the regulations that are before you today. The collaboration and the feedback from all the stakeholders were a real large part of the revision process. As Tim mentioned, we tried to align with other state agencies whenever we could, modernized and updated language, and focused in primarily on health and safety. Changes were made to reflect best practices, keeping the residents in the care as the #1 priority. These updated regs reflect transparency, accountability, and will support positive outcomes for the residents the programs serve. Now we'll pass it over to Miguel, who can help walk us through the timelines and what the rest of the process looks like.
Thank you,
Miguel?
Kelly.
Yep.
Good afternoon. As you're aware, we're going to seek the board's vote today to promulgate the residential regulations. Throughout the spring and summer, we'll continue to work with policy, IT, training teams, as well as the residential work group to build and implement the systems and supports necessary for the implementation. The residential work group will remain in place to facilitate feedback and policy development. We will continue to monitor these systems and supports for effectiveness throughout the year and beyond. Ongoing technical assistance will be available for our providers from our great team of licensors.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I'm passing it to Erica.
I just want to mention for just a minute that both during our formal public comment period, we received really meaningful and excellent feedback from our residential providers, and and I think it's important for us to just recognize the top piece of feedback and most consistent was just asking for additional time in terms of the implementation. We also received, this board received a significant amount of public comment regarding that same timeline. So I just want to recognize that the providers have been incredible partners with us throughout this process, and most of the feedback we received was not about the content of the regulations. We really reached substantial consensus on where we should be going as a system, which is remarkable. And most of the feedback we received was we just like more time for the implementation of that. And I just want to remind the board that we picked a timeline associated with ensuring alignment with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They passed new regulations that will be effective on August 17th around seclusionary practices in the day part of the residential. So we do the residential where the kids live, and DESE oversees and regulates the day part, so the educational part of where the kids spend their days having education. And we felt as an administration it was very important to align across the two agencies on that implementation date so that when changes are being made to the school day part of the experience and behavior management, that those would carry through and be consistent. So I want to both recognize why we picked this date to ensure that we have alignment with our sister agency, and so that the programs that are doing both school day programming and residential programming can work towards a common set of practices when it comes to seclusion and timeout, and such an important part of the behavior management part of our system. So you see that is the date that we are proposing in order to ensure that level of alignment. And I just want to also recognize that in partnership with providers, we will continue to do the same kind of work we've been doing over the last 3 years, which is collaborative, engaged, and work that respects kind of the experience of the provider. So the effective date that we're proposing today is August 17th to align again with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, but it is our intention to work collaboratively with providers over the next year to ensure that we support their ability to comply with the new regulations, whether it's policies or programs or professional development and training. So the recommendation you have in front of you, and I'll turn it over to our General Counsel, Erica Morin, to just walk through the motion that we are proposing for the board's consideration.
So I'll walk through the motion and then give you all an opportunity if you want to discuss prior to voting. So we're seeking authority to revise the residential program regulations. In order to be adopted, we have to file them with the Secretary of the Commonwealth and have them published in the Massachusetts Register. Therefore, we're recommending that the board authorize EEC to file these proposed amended regulations to be effective August 17th, 2026 with the Secretary of the Commonwealth for publication in the Massachusetts Register.
Great. Thanks, Erica. Want to open it up for discussion?
So,
Dr. Sager.
is this time for
Yeah, go ahead.
discussion?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Great job. You've just done an amazing job. We've been hearing about it for several months, and it's just a great piece of work in collaboration with all our partners. So that brings me to the question, we have collaborated so well, we have such a great new protocol to adhere to. Can we not consider extending the time of implementation at this point? I think it would be more realistic. I think it would show our respect for our partners, all of whom seem to think that the 3 months, especially over the summer, just won't work, will be hard, if not impossible, to implement. So my thinking today is perhaps this board should think about extending the implementation date if this is possible. And I understand we want to be in alignment with DESE. I appreciate the value of that. But I think the value of listening to our partners, understanding what they will need to implement this is perhaps more important.
Thank you, Dr. Sager. Additional comments? Carolyn?
So, first of all, thank you and appreciate the tremendous amount of work that's gone into accomplishing a new set of regulations, or should I say proposed regulations. And, I mean, it's been needed, let's be honest, for over 30 years. But this is also only step one of the process, right? Even though that was a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of work still lies ahead, right? There is a need for training for staff of EEC, training for all of the respective providers in their programs, and that is no small amount of work to get accomplished. So I did read with great interest the feedback from the providers that we received, and again, echoing the commissioner's comments, the resounding request was for an extension of time. And honestly, we just want these regulations to be implemented effectively, efficiently, and, you know, with integrity, right? So that's always the goal. I will also say that as the Health and Human Services person on the board, I have worked very closely with this team because we have monthly meetings with the Office of the Child Advocate that includes DESE, it includes DDS, it includes DCF, it includes the Department of Mental Health, and we talk about issues regarding school in largely residential programs, right? And we talk about what the issues are confronting us, people give updates, and what I really want to impress is that these programs really do collaborate. I also participated in a lot of cases where children were boarding in hospitals because of their significant special needs or mental health needs. And we reach out to these providers to provide the supports and services for these individuals. And overall, these providers really serve the most vulnerable citizens of the Commonwealth itself. So I just want to recognize that they've been incredible partners, and I just think it's incredibly important that we consider in a comprehensive and meaningful way their feedback to show that we respect their opinions, we appreciate their feedback, and we value their ongoing collaboration. I mean, I noticed that we had comments from MAPS, who represents all of the residential schools, the New England Center for Children, and Melmark, two of which I consider to be the gold standard for most severely impacted individuals, particularly with autism. And then we also heard from the League, Devereaux, and Whitney Academy. And, you know, obviously it was forwarded to us to read, and I was reading it this morning because we just received it all. And I was like, okay. And I do think this is incredibly important to move forward. I just want us to be mindful of the fact that what does it take to do it most effectively and most efficiently? And it impacts both the agency as well as the provider community. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, including training staff, developing policies, you know, on the agency side, but also on the provider side. And I am very aware of the nature and type of work that involves, but I also, you know, having worked in the last 10 years with many of the provider community, I just appreciate their feedback and respect their input.
Thank you, Carolyn. Additional questions or comments from the board?
Okay, I don't think this travels, but I have an idea, and I'm not a lawyer, it's not my background, you are. But I keep getting hung up on a couple of words. There's just unanimous consensus that new regs are needed. It's good for the overall ecosystem, I hate that word, but the ecosystem of the field, yet the timeline is just too short. And the word to promulgate effective August 17th, to me, sounds different than to be in full compliance, which is a different word. And so is it possible to amend the proposal, maintain the effective date, but add to the sentence that says EEC will continue to work on compliance and achieving compliance by August 2027 or October 2026. I don't want to debate the date. I just want to put the idea of the use of the words on the table because it would be important to do it well and do it right, but not lose the urgency to address the need for these regulations, given some of the, kind of urgent situations that are very real. So I put that out to the group to consider as I think we all really want to see this move forward. How do we do it in a way that makes sense? Somebody else might have a better idea, so I welcome a better idea.
I just have a question too. How long did DESE give its providers or programs in advance of their actual implementation?
The August 17th date that DESE has.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think within their comments, they mentioned
1 year.
I think it was
It was a year. Sorry, there was a lot of comments, so I might have missed that. Okay. So they had a year. Okay.
Erica, can we just turn to Erica to maybe address
Yes.
board member Price? Yeah.
I mean, I think an effective date of a regulation is an effective date of a regulation, so we can't really say it's effective except for, I think we have discussed about giving technical assistance to programs along the way, but they will be in effect on that date.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important just to note that like we have health and safety, that health and safety is our number one piece of work, and that is retained and improved, even strengthened in these, and we go further around inclusivity and prevention and proactive work, and it is our intention, even with an August effective date, to work in partnership with programs around the development of the new policies, the new procedures, professional development, new reporting requirements. We recognize it's going to take time for programs to get to full implementation, and our support, as it always has been, will be around partnership and technical assistance.
So what we see in the comments is a lot of the programs have asked for 12 months. We're talking about 3 months. Can we think about a compromise of 9 months or 6 months? At least that brings us past the summer. And I think it's just more realistic, shows respect for our partners. So I guess that would be my recommendation, that we do recommend extending the time for the implementation at least to 6 months from today.
Any other questions, Secretary Syke?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your work. I mean, that's an immense, 30 years is a long time. So appreciate the amount of time that's been put into this. And I also, had a chance to look at the feedback and appreciate the feedback that the different organizations have shared. I think from my perspective, as the alignment with the department, I think, is important because I do think that creates some challenges around the same organization having different rules and expectations during the day portion and the evening portion, which I think I would have some concerns about that aspect of it. And the urgency, I do think there's urgency. Anytime I'm not suggesting that anyone here doesn't feel urgency, because I think we're around a group of people who all feel urgent about the health and safety and well-being of children. But there has been a lot of attention, both in the K-12 area and in early ed around making sure that we do everything we can to protect our kids. And so I do feel a sense personally of urgency to try to do this as soon as possible. That being said, as the commissioner said, we have a responsibility to support organizations. This is a lift, probably more of a lift for some than others, but it is a change after 30 years. And I think we have a responsibility, or the EEC, but certainly my office, to be as supportive as possible around the technical assistance, even understanding that it may take a little more time for some than others. And I would say, on my part, I want to do what I can to advocate for resources, right? In the case of the Department of Ed, DESE, there was resources made available to schools to help with planning and with some of the needs. And I think that's important. While I can't, please don't hold me to the promise, I do think that advocacy is important around trying to secure resources to help make this happen. I'd have a hard time delaying it just because I feel a sense of urgency given, given that we're talking about young people who, who we have to do everything we can to protect. But understanding that, these organizations will need time, they'll need support. I have no doubt that EEC can do that. But for my part, you have my support in trying to get as much resources as we can, and to advocate to ensure that we're helping people along the way.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I'll just add, this is a tricky one. You guys have been at this for a long time, and it's long overdue. And this is really, to me, about the implementation. It's not about what's in there. And I think we've also done a really nice job, compliments to this board, of listening to the field and listening to providers. And it is clear, as the commissioner mentioned, as board member Kane mentioned, the feedback was overwhelming that we do something here as it relates to the timeline.
Yeah.
I appreciate board member Sager's kind of idea of sort of like, is there a compromise here, right? Is there something that we can say we're taking in the urgency, but also acknowledging that we're heading into a period of time that, after 30-some plus years, it would be hard to, it's going to be a lift for people, and we can feel that in the public comment that we received. And so I appreciate the conversation here, and want to make sure that we are continuing to lift up the hard work of this team and everyone behind you that participated in this work, and make sure that we are thoughtful about how we close this out, right? How we implement this, because I don't want to lose. You're only as good as your last at bat, and I don't want people to walk away from this feeling like, oh, because it's a tremendous accomplishment what you and providers behind you have done to get us to this point after decades of needed work. So, this is a challenging one, and so
Right. So I greatly appreciate and respect the Secretary's opinion. I guess I'm going to still ask, is there a possibility for compromise, or do you feel that just won't work because of the urgency? I mean, I think we all agree with the urgency and the importance of it.
I'll just say, the board has the decision here on what to do, and so I think it's up to us to make a thoughtful decision, weighing in all the feedback and the advocacy of support, and I think that's on us.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so when we get to that point, we can have that conversation.
Can I ask a couple questions before you answer, just because it might inform your answer? Miguel, on the path to implementation, you talked about ongoing work, spring and the summer, that the team would provide. It's 90 days, so have you thought through tactically what that looks like? Do you have the capacity on staff? Obviously recognizing you don't know what kind of incoming questions and issues and challenges people will have, but have you kind of forecasted, and do you have concerns about capacity at the staff?
Well, like I said, we have standing meetings already, so that we're just building up, and so we haven't stopped meeting. So, we'll keep addressing that.
Okay. And I think, as you see in the comments, if I could just add, we're aware and have been communicating with this community through this group, as well as other reach outs by Eugenia. So I think we're aware of the sticking points, have been working on. All of the policy development has been run through them. We definitely have a solid sense as to what people's focus is, what the concerns are, and where we need to go, and certainly have heard it, but I'm not going to say I haven't heard. It's the summer also, but other folks are gearing up to get ready for DESE as well, had received the resources from DESE, and now really for this particular summer, specifically got a lot of guidance from DESE that they're currently looking at and also informing us through this provider group, because we want to make sure that we're not duplicating. I think that's the other piece behind this, is we want to make sure that we're not requesting of something different, which is why we really aligned with the seclusionary language for DESE, so that the school and night.
Fair to say then you've already kind of thought through what implementation will look like and are anticipating and have some ready. Okay, that's helpful. And then Erica, on the I'm with you on the letter of the law. Like, once it's effective. But under standard administrative law, I don't know, cases or just general guidance in the Commonwealth, is there a grace period or an exemption clause that's generally accepted for organizations who have here a 90-day clock to comply and can demonstrate in a good faith effort, like, we just can't under these time constraints, however, we'll make a good faith effort to address, whatever safety concerns, or prioritizing in a way that here's what we can reasonably achieve in the 90-day frame, here's what we need more time with. Like, is that, I am an attorney, but I haven't practiced in this area in a while, so
I was impressed, George.
So I think that we have discussed this, that regardless of the effective date, we would not have necessarily an official grace period, but communicate to programs that we would be working with them to come into compliance. We'd obviously still address any immediate health and safety concerns and hold them to those things, but we have kind of discussed that we would communicate with them and help them come into compliance. So we have some flexibility in the sense of our actions we can take with a program when they're not in compliance with something are very broad, from a very strict revocation or something to something that's just technical assistance. So we already have that flexibility within our enforcement standards. So I think we would just stick with that flexibility and communicate to programs that that is what we were doing, and we could discuss the time frame for that with EC and with the programs.
So it's more on the enforcement side. So
Yeah.
we won't automatically penalize you if you're not compliant by August 17th, provided
Yep.
you're able to demonstrate you've been working towards compliance. Okay.
Our goal, as it is today, but will certainly be under the new regulations, is to ensure compliance, because that is what creates safety, health, well-being for the children that are there and for the educators who are working in the program. So we always approach it with how are we helping make sure the program is in compliance, because that's how we make sure the kids are safe and well. And that will certainly be the case under the new regulations. So especially where there's new things that programs haven't done before, or new policies and procedures that we expect them to have in place, that we would anticipate working with them over the next year, more in a technical assistance capacity, to make sure that they're able to meet those standards and that they understand why, and that we're providing them with the resources, if we have some, to be able to support them to do that, rather than holding them accountable for something they may not yet have had the time to implement. So I think it would be it has always been, and I should say that there's a difference between sort of the basic health and safety requirements and anything that might be of risk or danger to a child, which is already in our licensing requirements and will not change, and will be subject to compliance and further corrective action, versus some of the new policies and procedures that they may need more time in order to be able to implement over the course of likely a year. And for our staff too, right? 30 years they've been operating, or however many years, various number of years our staff have been operating under a set of regulations, and the regulations are new. And so we also have work we have to do within our own teams to get everyone up to speed, to get new licensing tools in place, to get new information technology systems in place, and to be able to use those tools to support the residential program. So there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of that will happen over the next year, even with an effective date of August. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Can I just ask and I don't know if any of the folks here know the answer to this, but let's say a program is found not in compliance, not with the health and safety regulations that we already have in place, but with some of the new things that they have. What are the repercussions?
So that falls within our enforcement regulations, and there's a whole range up to, we can do basically technical assistance, help them fix whatever the issue is. If it ends up being something very serious, it could result in revocation of a license, but that's only the most serious thing, and that's like a last resort. So there's a whole range of options we have in between those things. And
we can issue a non-compliance for so we can issue technical assistance is sort of on the support end of the spectrum, and we can issue a non-compliance. I mean, I can let the team do this. We can send an investigator in. I mean, there are a range of things that that would be driven by either the violation or incident that happened or the noncompliance that we're seeing.
And the noncompliance, the result is they do a corrective action plan addressing how they will address or addressing the issue, which is how we do things now. It's the same process. But it kind of is left to the discretion of EC, the licensing team, to determine what level of enforcement is
So
best
we would
suited.
be auditing them after August 17th, correct?
Doing visits, compliance visits, yep. They would still be subject to the normal visits they get, the monitoring visits, as well as any visits that come from investigations.
Or from our proactive work to
Yep.
help support implementation of the regs.
I just have to point out that it's, we're seeking to approve them with a specific implementation date. However, we've all acknowledged that full implementation is not going to be possible by the implementation date. So I'm just asking, does that make sense? I realize there's urgency. It's been waiting for 30-plus years. And, it's always good to align with DESI. But in fairness to the EEC staff and the providers, we're imposing requirements that actually can't come to fruition for many more months. I'm not following that.
Yeah, I'm reconciling, I'm doing that formula in my head as well. And be honest, like, we're trying to come to a solution here. This is what we're doing live here. But also sort of, if I'm sitting in the seat of a provider, what I'm seeing here as an absolute is this vote, right? And reconciling with, DESI had a year, had some formal technical assistance. Like, I'm trying to reconcile that relationship with an acknowledgement that it just feels like it'd be really hard, and what a signal it could be if we just, to Board Member Sager's point, gave a little bit of flexibility, maybe even not where providers want to go, which is a year, but some sort of, little flexibility, understanding that health and safety are always at the core, right? That's not what we're voting on here, right? That's not,
Yeah.
So I'm reconciling that. You're watching it live as we try to sort through how to take the great work that this group did and ensure that it's implemented effectively.
Right,
So.
right. So I wonder, my fellow board members, are you in favor of extending the implementation date, or?
Yeah, so I'm go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, no, I just to respond, I feel strongly about the date. That being said, this is a conversation, this is a healthy discussion, right?
Yeah.
I think your perspective is a legitimate one, and so I'm not, I appreciate the fact that these are the conversations you can have at a board meeting. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. And so, I just feel strongly about what it, symbolizes and signals around the urgency that I personally feel, and that's just my perspective. And I do worry about the misalignment with the department, and I do, I acknowledge that the folks on the K-12 side had more time, which is unfortunate that it didn't line up. But it does, I do worry about that disconnect that might exist. That being said, I'm not going to discount anything. This is a very reasonable conversation, and I can see why people would feel, differently about that. And, ultimately it's up to the will of the board, right, to make the decision. I don't think that's going to, I don't think I'm going to change my perspective before the vote, but I very much respect what other people have to say about it.
So Linda, I would just say from a process perspective, if that was something you wanted to amend and put forward to the vote to the board for consideration, that would be sort of the.
Well,
yeah.
I would like to do that, but I just want to tell the secretary, I really respect and am so glad at what you have said to us, and I hope you don't think my perspective is meant in any way to disrespect yours. But
no, not at all. No, and I think that this is what we should be doing.
Very much. I've just worked with residential programs, and I think both practically because they'd have more time, but also symbolically because they've asked for it. If we gave 3 more months, that might be a reasonable compromise. So I will present to the board, that is the amendment I would like to suggest.
So should I read it as amended and then ask for a second, Eric? I'm looking at.
Yes, I think that's right.
Okay. Any
So,
other questions?
Yeah, could
I
I
just want to clarify
Yeah.
to make sure we pick the exact date you're proposing.
Yeah, so let me, George, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if it's still hypothetical because it hasn't been formally
correct.
proposed, but in the scenario where we amend the proposed regulation
Yep.
effective date, does that automatically trigger any additional public processes that we have to comply with before we can consider these final?
No, because it's just the date.
It's just the effective date.
Just
Okay,
the
thank you.
effective date,
I just
yeah.
wanted to know because that would obviously add additional
Yes.
steps and responsibilities here.
November 17th.
So it would be,
September, October, November 17th, 6 months.
no, that would be 3.
I think she's doing 3 months.
Yeah, that would be
She's doing
3.
3 months.
Wanna do 3
That's
6?
3 months from, so,
6 months from now.
Oh.
well, we would do,
Want an addition,
Well, you're
additional
basically
3,
asking
you're
for
saying, right? When-
6 months from now, so May, June, July, August, September, October, November.
well, the effective date, we're saying it's when, they don't go into effect today, right? Am I-
No, it
No.
goes into effect August 17th.
3 months.
So are we saying,
You're-
the suggestion is the effective date be November 17th?
If that's your,
Yeah, well, that's 6
Yeah.
months from,
Today.
is that 6 months from today?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 6 months from today.
oh, I see. It's 3 months beyond the August 17th date. So if we do it from today is the 13th, June, July, August, September, October, November 13th.
Is that right? Is that right?
So either 6 months from today or.
Well, no, because the,
3
no,
months
hold
from
on a
the
second,
August
though.
17th date.
The motion has a specific date in it.
Yes.
You're looking to amend the date in the motion. You're making a friendly amendment to the motion.
Yep.
So under Robert's rules, or for lack of a better thing, you make a motion to amend the date that's in the motion to something else. You don't make it from today. So it would have to be, add
And
3
that's-
months to August, whatever,
And
3
that's-
months or
yeah,
6
and
months
that's
or
what I
whatever, you
did.
equal a
August
9.
17th,
Yeah,
3
so-
months would be November 17th, so.
Okay.
So does somebody have to second that amendment?
Yeah, let me just.
I just wanted to
make
see if
sure
there were
we're all-
any more
yeah.
amendments first.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
that's what yeah. Any other?
I guess I have one question
Yeah.
for us to consider. So does changing the effective date, is changing the effective date an act of goodwill? Or will it really make a difference in terms of what happens in implementation?
I think both.
Well, I think
I just
both,
wanted to-
because
Yeah, I
what
think
we
both.
talked about is that what we heard is that the August implementation date, even though, I mean, that to me is symbolic because it's aligning with DESI, but we know from our, the comments and from our own staff at the agency on what needs to be done, that it's going to take a period of time to accomplish all of that. So that's why I said the implementation date doesn't really make sense, because even if you use August as an implementation, you can't accomplish what needs to be accomplished for them to be fully implemented.
But I guess I'm asking, and even if we moved it to November, some date in November, does that change?
Does it make it easier to?
Will it in fact
Well, that's
lead
the
to?
goal.
Is my question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would view it listening to the field and say.
They asked
it
for a
inches
year.
us towards the goal, but is not what the field, like, they're asking for another
They wanted
year,
a year.
right? And so I think what we're trying to do here is collectively solve here to find some middle ground to give some space.
So in answer to your question, I think it will, as you say, inch to the goal, but it's also very much a goodwill gesture for our partners.
Yeah.
And it comes with the balance of being misaligned with the DESI
Yes, the
regulations.
yep.
Yeah, for a 3-month period.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I don't know what the actual risks there are of having that alignment out of whack, but
Yeah, I just think there's confusion that comes from it.
Two sets of rules
yeah,
for
two
the same
sets of rules,
issues.
Right, right.
Does that confusion look like confusion for staff, confusion for young people, confusion for families, confusion for whom?
When you guys want to?
I mean, I think our larger organizations are gearing up. They know that we're both doing this. I think that for them to be able to attach it to the residential living community for students, it's different. That they're residents with us, they're students in the school, so there's nuances, to that. So I think people are recognizing we're getting ready. We know DESE needs this in place, and we're doing that. And they also don't want to do this twice, so they certainly are mindful of in those environments. But we also have a whole slew of other programs that are non-DESE related.
yeah.
So I think that's the other thing to factor in here is some need to come into compliance with both, and some, this is the first time because they don't have any DESE relationships at all. So that would be more work now, probably. I mean, they've been in the conversation with us, so it's not new. Like we said, we've been working with providers. But I think if that answers your question, I think it certainly depends on the environment that's
Like
looking at this already.
DCF group homes and things of that nature that are not educational, you know what I mean? Like special education schools. There's other types of residential programs that EEC licenses.
I just want to be mindful of, as the secretary was talking, I do think it's important to think about, for particularly the residents of the program, right? Like that we don't want things to be confusing. We don't want to maximize change in any way, and it's important to have stability. And regardless, there are changes. The DESE already has a set of changes that are coming. We will have changes, and so kind of regardless, change will happen. And so how do we make sure that everyone feels supported as that comes around? And my focus here is on making sure that the folks in the programs understand and I wouldn't want any of the folks in the programs to experience any wild, crazy change and have them be affected personally on top of all the things that they're going through.
Any other questions or comments? Then I'll
Chair?
take it. Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to not comment on the date for a minute because I don't actually feel wildly prepared to understand the ripple effect of August 17th versus November in terms of impact on residents and staff and chaos, et cetera. But that said, I think we've already talked about the common sense of it. I do see or would hear a friendly amendment to add to the end of the statement that the agency produces a clear timeline for support and technical assistance as they are moving forward when effective date hits. So as an oversight or monitoring process is defined. I know that happens all the time anyway, but from where I'm sitting right now, I don't know what that is. So to be able to judge the level of, to be able to make a judgment of the level of workload associated with doing this, August versus November, it's hard for me to sit here and kind of get a sense of that. But if I know in my old world at the state level with implementing and promulgating labor regulations, when the field knew that we had a clearly published timeline for what the rules are, when they were coming out, when we were coming out to visit, what we were looking at, and what the follow-up was, everything from taking away someone's license to a corrective action plan, it just made that conversation a little bit better, a little more transparent. So that's not in this statement as written, even though I know that happens anyway, because I don't feel as well informed about the impact of the date, whether it's August or November. I would love to have that be part of the vote.
Yeah.
So for your consideration, Chair, as you
I'm trying to
reframe. I'm trying to process that too,
Yeah.
right? Because I think what we're stuck on and that Erica advised us on, well, not stuck, but it's a point, is that if you provide an implementation date, that's the implementation date. And so, and that's send a clear message to providers about a specific date and time. I think that a timeline to actually, I think what you're talking about is sort of the enforcement piece of it.
Exactly.
Right? And what she's saying is that the implementation is the implementation. How that enforcement happens can vary, but that doesn't mean that those regulations are not in effect.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah,
Okay.
I totally agree with that. It's just the yin to the yang of
Yeah.
what goes next, right? And then if that isn't as clearly laid out, it's even harder then to absorb that effective date and what, if one program has little change and another program has a significant amount of change, those are two very different experiences for each of the residential program. So I personally, I'd want to know what's in front of me after that effective date and how that's going to roll forward.
I just weigh in here for a second and say that is the work that our licensing team
Yeah.
does every single day. We have enforcement regulations. The programs know exactly when they're going to be visited. We have it in an IT system. So from a program perspective, they know when the team's going to be out there. Certainly in terms of the implementation support that we'll be providing, that'll be communicated. There'll be a timeline. There'll be, everything that the programs need to be communicated from us. But from a existing enforcement expectation standpoint, that is very well established. And the team's work every day is to work with programs who are here,
yeah,
or maybe here, or on any given day, maybe in different places, and that is that's their superpower and their skill set.
It's so tricky because I don't want to put anyone in a position to answer this question, but I wish we had a provider. Just because I'm trying to understand like the symbolism of like, is it goodwill? Is it actually very helpful? Is it? It's too short anyway, so just do the August 17th, which I don't like. I'm trying to. So that's sort of what I'm weighing as well. I mean, I do think a little more time is probably helpful, but and beyond just goodwill, but. So that's just where my head is as well. So, yeah. I can see a provider jumping over there, but I don't know if that's in the rules. So, any other questions before I?
Well, we do have their feedback.
Yeah,
And I think
we
it's
do.
in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Kelly looks like
Kelly?
she wants to jump in. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a lot spinning in my head, but irregardless, I think of what date we land on. One thing to answer your earlier question around, are we've been ready, obviously, for a long time and gearing up, but we really have just started prioritizing. So I think when you talk about alignment with DESE, we're talking about one regulation that we're aligning with. So prioritizing that because programs will be ready for them, a priority should be working closely with DESE to see how it's going. I think, for the seclusion piece, and then for us. So we've been really working on what do we need, what are the training needs, and really thinking about how you prioritize, because it's really that one piece of alignment around seclusion. And providers have had some time to think about it. So I think our communication and collaboration around how it's going and where folks are at will help us in terms of how we're going to implement and staying in alignment with DESE. So,
great. All right, I'm going to take a crack at reading Dr. Sager's motion here. Okay.
Are you also considering Jen's?
I thought.
I didn't know if
I
there
was
was- I didn't know
hearing
if there
that
was
was
one or
sort of
two
the part.
friendly
Sorry,
amendments.
sorry.
I know. It's been a long conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tackle the date thing.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
just, don't worry about it.
All right. So I'm going to address your friendly amendment. Read it. Move that the Board of Early Education and Care, in accordance with General Law, Chapter 15D, Section 3, having solicited public comment as required by General Law, Chapter 30A, hereby approves 606 CMR 3.00, the proposed amended regulations governing residential programs as amended with an effective date of November 17th.
Making sure it's, so you have the calendar.
And authorizes the Commissioner of Early Education and Care to file the proposed amended regulations with the Secretary of the Commonwealth for publication in the Massachusetts Register. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, and I'm going to do a roll call on this so I get this. Secretary Zreich.
No.
Board Member Tanasoff.
Yes.
Jamela Lee.
Abstain.
Linda Sager.
Yes.
Carolyn Kane.
Yes.
Jennifer James Price.
Yes.
Dr. Lucas.
Yes.
The Chair votes yes as well. And Nikki, are you online?
Yes, I am.
And, oh, that was loud in there. Sorry, Nikki. Your vote on this?
I'm going to abstain as well.
Okay. So we have 6 yes, 2 abstain, 1 no. Is that how you have it, Erica?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, the motion passes as amended. Great.
Thank you.
Good? Great. Thank you. Can I just, before we, this is work here. This is healthy, and it's good, and it is in service of lifting up the great work that you all did. And I know people will, this will be good for some and maybe frustrate, like, we're trying to meet a lot of people where they are. I want to thank the board for a good, healthy discussion as well around making sure that, again, to me, at the center of this is the work that you all have done with providers to get us to this place after a really long time. And your leadership you are headliners here at this board over the last couple of years. And it's your leadership, your consistent leadership of this panel that has got us to this point. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
team.
much.
Thank you.
All right.
One more?
One more.
One more item? Okay, I am excited to invite up the team that worked on the family child care capacity. Deep breath. Get it. We'll see if we are. And welcoming the wonderful team who's been working on our family child care capacity pilot, and just noting that there are some board members that have to fly right at 4 p.m., so there's no vote or action needs to be taken on this, but I'm sure we'll also be back. Just by way of introduction, I just want to remind the board that in fiscal year 2025, there were a number of outside sections that were included in the budget that changed our statute. And one of the things that they changed was that there had been in statute a limit of 10 children as a group size in family child care. And it eliminated that after a lot of work in the legislature and some organizing by family child care providers with the goal of increasing capacity in family child care to serve additional families, to support greater business among our family child care providers. The team has been hard at work thinking about regulatory revisions to be able to address that, as well as other updates needed in family child care. But as you may have noticed, it takes a while to do regulatory revisions. You hadn't noticed, I know, but it takes a while to do regulatory revisions. And we had a lot of family child care providers reaching out to talk about how this could be a real benefit to them. So the team came up with the fantastic idea of, why don't we pilot it, which would allow us to learn what the impact would be of expanding the group size within a family child care setting, and inform those ultimate changes to regulation before we made regulations and had to go back and change them. So I'm really happy to turn it over to the team who has been working on thinking through how could we best and most responsibly pilot this to maximize our learning and also ensure health and safety for children and families. So I will turn it over to the panel to introduce themselves, some who are not frequent flyers here.
So I'm Erin Kraft. I'm the regional director out in the western part of the state.
My name is Marisol Rosado Ledoux. I'm the regional director for the Region 2 office, and I also support the family child care supervisors and group supervision.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Feliciano. I'm a family child care licensing supervisor in Region 5, so we support Southeast Massachusetts, Cape, and the Islands.
Hi, I'm Allison Zolator, and I'm the Family Child Care Supervisor in the Western Region.
All right. Well, thank you. And we are very, very excited to be here and to present, and we will move this right along for you. As the commissioner said, this was a change in the 2025 budget language, and it immediately was very well thought of for our family child care educators to be able to take at least 2 more children, and we just want to make sure we get it right in our regs. So what we have proposed is a family child care capacity pilot, and what it'll do is help us really know
the feasibility of doing this? What are the problems that could come up? Or how do we actually put this in regs that it is absolutely clear, absolutely keeps the health and safety of all our children in mind? And also, what do families think about it? Because family childcare for some people is 6 kids in a small location, so this will be different for them. So we're really looking at what are the key challenges educator may find, what's more staffing may they need to go into this type of program, any kind of trends we're seeing with them as far as policy or things we need to think about in order to make this work. Impact on our licensing staff. Is it actually more visits? Is it more work? And then any implementations on the system. And I'll turn it over to Miroslav.
So in developing the program, the pilot, we took a very collaborative approach to getting feedback. This included a learning circle with our family childcare teams, our licensors. We came together with them, received feedback from them. We also met with our family childcare systems and with our work group, family childcare work group, to gather feedback from them. Together, these groups provided us recommendations on the pilot, the design, the participation, the learning goals, and other supports needed within EEC to have a successful implementation of the pilot. Erin?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our plans for the eligibility to participate in the pilot program. So based on data that we have in our current licensing system, we estimate that there are just under 1,400 family childcare programs that meet the minimum eligibility requirements. We certainly know not all family childcare educators are fully enrolled at 10, but these reflect the numbers that would be. These educators would be sent information from EEC on how to apply to participate in the pilot program. To participate in the pilot, family childcare providers must have a license that's in good standing, which includes no pending enforcement actions, sanctions, or serious history of licensing violations. The program license must have a current capacity to serve 10 children, and the program must have operated at this license capacity for at least the last 3 years consistently. Our current target size for the pilot program is between 25 and 30 family childcare programs. That is giving us an estimate about 5 programs per region, and we're really looking to ensure we have statewide representation and include a variety of program types from Western Mass all the way through Boston. So this slide dives a little bit deeper into the eligibility requirements. We've bucketed them into 5 topics. Once programs have met those minimum eligibility requirements, we're going to review more specific participation requirements through an application. So the staffing structure for those participating in the pilot program would include the licensee of the family childcare program residing in their home and actively working with the children full-time. The secondary staff member must be a certified family childcare assistant. We will allow additional staff members to serve as regular assistants as needed if they would like to enroll additional infant children, which would require a higher ratio. The family childcare home must meet the current square footage requirements, but now for 12 children. So this looks like having 420 square feet of activity space inside, a minimum of, and access to at least 900 square feet of outdoor space in the current program. The program may operate on the basement level of the home, the first or second floor only, and this is really for evacuation purposes. We are requesting programs to be willing to partner with their local municipalities, including local fire departments, to ensure notification of their participation in the pilot program is known. The program must also notify a family childcare system if they engage with them, their local CCR&R, food program provider, and of course the parents and guardians of the children that are enrolled in the family childcare program. We will be asking educators to update their current licensing documents, including their parent handbook, and prepare a staff schedule and a staff records checklist. We also are requesting that they are ensuring compliance with transportation regulations if that's something that they provide in their program. And last, but certainly most importantly, we're hoping the family childcare educator is willing to partner with EEC to ensure that data is collected during the pilot program and participates with the monitoring that will also be included. This looks like attending an orientation for the pilot program, submitting monthly attendance records, completing surveys, participating in licensing visits with their assigned licensor, and attending an exit meeting upon departing the pilot program so we can also gauge learnings from that as well. I'm going to hand it over to Allison.
Okay. So we have heard from our family child care educators that they are really excited about expanding the capacity, the potential to go to 12. So they're looking forward to applying. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the application and the selection process and the scoring. So what you see is the rubric, what we're looking for. The criteria is that they're demonstrating learning and adaptability, that they are demonstrating the readiness to participate in the pilot and their ability to adapt program operations. Their engagement, that they are engaged in professional development initiatives and communication with licensing. Educator experience, educator and program experience, that they are operating their family child care program and they have the ability to maintain quality while caring for a larger group. Family needs, educators' communication and partnership with families, and how increased capacity will support family needs. In other words, being able to keep siblings together in the same family child care program. Staffing consistency, that they are able to maintain safe supervision and consistent staffing practices while caring for a larger group. And then lastly, the attendance record, that they have to provide 1 month's attendance to demonstrate that they are at the capacity of 10. We're hoping to be able to accept programs where they have the ability to increase their capacity to 12. And the next slide is about what we are hoping to learn from the pilot and how it will inform our regulations and policies and support updates. So there are 5 areas that we believe that we will learn from. Number 1, staffing groupings and ratios, how staffing patterns shift, approaches to recruitment and retention, and wage structures. The second area is about program quality, health and safety, impact on complaints and non-compliances, the educator-licensor relationship, multi-age curriculum, changes to program philosophy, core values, quality and quality supports needs. Operations and business practices, we would like to learn more about the process of scaling from 10 to 12, operational adjustments required, also insurance and liability considerations, impact on space needs, changes in program costs, revenue, and budgets. And then family and community practice, sibling care continuity, community demand, seasonal shifts in care, and lastly, the EEC process and the impact on the process, the impact on licensors' workload, and also the lead enhancements that are required. Marisol?
Yes. So this is a timeline that we've been hard at work at putting together the pilot. We've started in winter and we're here in the spring, and then we are looking for June to open up the application for participants to come in. And then in July, the applications will be reviewed regionally and by our supervisors, our licensors, and our regional directors, and then with hoping of beginning the pilot in August. Any questions? We're excited.
I just want to say, I just want to say thank you again to the team and to Marisol and Aaron who've been supporting it, but Aaron and Allison who've really picked this up and led the effort to really do the hard design work and to work with your colleagues, some of who are quite anxious about this pilot. And again to Eugenia Soilis, who we had a family child care educator working group so that we can engage their opinions as we develop this pilot. So balancing a lot of different things to roll this out, but I feel like it represents who we want to be as an agency, engaging the staff, engaging our community, responding to a need within the community, and then trying to figure out with our research team how to learn from it and incorporate it into our work going forward. So thank you all so much, and you were very efficient.
I'll open it up for comments and questions, but just say thank you. Like, this just feels like the right thing to do, right? And for those that are able to participate, you know, it may be small, maybe considered small in the scheme of all the things we do, but very impactful to those that are now maybe eligible to increase their enrollment, and appreciate the sort of the rubric in which you're looking at it, so that we're sort of looking at those that have been good stewards of what this work is, right? And how do we meet them and do a little something from our perspective as well. So interested to see the learnings as you guys go. I'll open up for questions, comments.
I was just gonna say thank you. I think it makes the structure of it makes a lot of sense to me. And, you know, having the people that are already approved and doing it, it makes a lot of sense in terms of, you know, growing, but also monitoring the growing and knowing that this has the best chance for success. So thank you for all of your hard work. I'm sorry that we rushed you at the end because of our other discussion, but I can't imagine how long the drive was from the Cape and Islands if you came that far.
We appreciate the time. We want to move on the timeline, so so I appreciate. We've worked really hard, and Erin and Allison have been stewards of this work. So,
Jen.
I echo all of the board members. Thanks, and I think this is so cool. I mean, when you find a family childcare provider, it's in your community, and people are psyched for it, and everybody knows it. Like, that's just great. But it was interesting. I think, Allison, you said as you've been doing focus groups, providers are excited by the idea. We just comment or describe more why they're excited, like what's jumping out, what are they excited about?
Sure. They are hopeful to be able to keep siblings together.
Okay, yeah,
Absolutely.
great point.
And also hopeful to be able to increase their capacity and in a professional way and provide supervision and, you know, to their assistants as well. But they're really excited about the possibility just
That's
to
awesome.
be able to expand.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you.
and may I also add that I think that they're excited because they've been heard, right? And they've advocated for this for many years. I mean, I've worked in family childcare for many years, right? And I think this was a big advocacy in their part, and so I think that the collaboration coming together, I feel like our family childcare folks were proud of, and they were heard. So.
On that point, I want to say kudos to the team for thinking of a pilot. And good policy starts at the design phase, right? And so the fact that you have an FCC working group with you in the design, it's baked in. This is for family child care providers. It's not for someone else, adapted for family child care providers. It's for them, by them. And so I'm excited to see continued participation. I'm excited to see lots of applications come flooding through from nearly 1,400. That you'll have your pick for 25 to 30. May I offer a couple suggestions around data collection that, having done a lot of pilot evaluations and understanding what the process looks like, the process of what it looks like to go from 10 or 6 or 8 or however many folks have to 12 is important. And you have done a lot of work here, so this is very thorough. A couple additions maybe for your consideration. Thinking about chatting with folks in interview or maybe focus group around what is this like for you, right? And the how did you do this? What were your workarounds? What were the challenges? And then how did you tackle them? Incredibly qualitative, and in a survey response, it may be very difficult to really get the meat and juice of like, oh, what does that really look like on the ground? And so building that in as you continue to design and roll out the pilot may be really helpful. And then just continued thinking about like what that is for folks, right? And particularly, I know you have wage structures in here, but I'm very curious actually how it changes the entirety of the business model. 2 additional seats is not nothing. And that could be, and this is a hypothesis, it could be economic mobility for a family child care provider. We don't know. And that's part of what we're trying to learn. And so just thinking about holistic income revenue streams beyond wages, and what that means for the family child care provider and their family, right, I think is an important piece to not lose, and maybe an additional piece. But thank you for doing all of this work and for the creative solution here.
And we totally agree. One of the things we're going to do with the pilot is bring the pilot participants together during certain time periods during the pilot, because we're hoping the pilot will last until the regs are actually promulgated and that we have the regs right. So that was part to learn from each other, pull those things out that you were saying, like, how did it change your family? Did you find that, business-wise, your taxes really changed or went up? So we really agree with that, and we are excited when we can get them all together in a room and learn a lot from them.
And I'm glad that you all are at the table too, and you all are leading this, right? It's not coming from, I mean, maybe it's coming from the top down a little bit, but like, you are in it, and that's fantastic.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As we close the meeting, I just want to thank again the team here in Westboro at Key Programs, Tammy, for hosting us, and everyone here to help coordinate today's meeting. With that, and a reminder, we'll be in Boston
Boston in June.
in
10th.
June, on June 10th. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. See you next month. Thanks.
Right on time.